So at St. Rita's, much of the work that we're doing is restoration work. So we're taking their original windows and either putting them back if they're in great condition, or the ones that need to be reworked, they're being restored and going back in. But there's one place where we're doing something different, and that's a new window, the rose window. Traditionally, in like a Gothic church, you would have had a rose window that had lots of tracery, and it creates almost a look of petals. So if you have a round window with petals in it, it resembles a flower. They're often referred to as a rose window no matter what the shape is. In this case, we don't actually have petals, but because of its location and the way it's being used in the church, it's almost always referred to as a rose window. The rose window will be over the front doors, and it's an opportunity for them to kind of celebrate who they are as not just that congregation, but as the Three Holy Women parish. And so we're making a kind of a rose window that is kind of almost going to work as signage on the front of the building in a lot of ways. As we look at the symbol that we see here, the symbol actually combines all three of the parishes of the Three Holy Women parish. St. Hedwig, Holy Rosary, and St. Rita's make up the Three Holy Women's parish. The most obvious of these symbols is the Holy Rosary, and you'll see the rosary depicted in these jewels that run around the outside, ending with the cross at the bottom of the rosary. In addition, we have the crown here, and the crown is associated with St. Hedwig. St. Hedwig was the Queen of Poland. The crown is represented upside down as an altar in the symbol. And the last symbol here is the crown of thorns, and that is for St. Rita. St. Rita was praying in a convent, and a wound appeared on her forehead, and it was associated with the Passion of Christ. And so the crown of thorns completes all the three symbols that make up the Three Holy Women parish. We don't want this window to look completely out of place with the rest of the windows. So all of the border elements you see here, and you can see these are in the initial stage where it just has the trace lines. You see some of the mat on that hasn't been pulled. But these designs came directly from the nave windows. It has the same motif that's happening in the windows there. And so the idea is, while we're using a logo that maybe didn't exist when St. Rita's was first founded, the rest of the motif is from those original windows, and it should feel like a complete set. And for somebody to come in and look up at the rose window, they won't pick out that that window is new as opposed to all the rest of the windows. It should be indiscernible. The painting on glass is what you'll see here, the process that's happening right now. Now, when we say painting on glass, of course, it's not actually paint. It's ground glass and pigment that's applied like a paint, and I think it's why we usually refer to it as painting. It's technically what makes stained glass stained. You're staining the glass. We're cutting all the glass, having to mat it, paint it. Something like this from start to finish, just for this one rose window, is probably about 6 to 8 weeks with 3 people working on it. So that's quite a long time when you consider it's one window. Those things that you can look at as an imperfection are really the hallmarks of really nice glass. This border, for example, that we want a consistent color is very uniform. Every piece of glass is just about indiscernible from the rest. Whereas in the field here, we're trying to get a lot more play with light and color, and here we're looking for that color to undulate, for that texture to undulate. Much of the glass in the center here is all hand mouth-blown antique glass. When I say antique, it's not that the glass is old, but the techniques used to make it are old. Much of this is probably Lambert's glass made in Waldsassen, Germany. And when they're making this glass, they're actually taking molten glass on the long tubes and actually blowing these long cylinders where they cut each end of the cylinder off, score the cylinder, and let the glass slump out into a sheet. And when you do that, the thickness of the glass will really vary, and where the glass is thicker, you'll get more intense colors. You get that kind of beautiful undulation of color, which is much more how we see things. When we see objects in real life, things aren't a uniform color. You see light and shadow and dark, and it creates depth, and there's a lot of artistry. And so we take a lot of pride in selecting and hand selecting really fine glass to make the windows.